Good morning, everybody. Today we are talking about how anger actually keeps you overweight and makes you fat. And I'm talking about this because I have been doing a lot of research on just the psychosomatic part of health and fitness. And I've always known that it just doesn't feel good. I don't know about you guys, but to me, anger does not feel good. I don't want to be settled and angry. And so I was starting to look up different podcasts and research different areas on how anger affects the body. So I'm going to talk about that today in this short video. I used to be someone whose default emotion was anger or just very reactive. And I know that really bothers people now because I have this phrase which is don't, make your anger expensive, meaning even on the inside make your anger expensive. It's really not about like being outwardly angry, it's about letting your emotions get to that point, like being boiling inside. That in and of itself is almost worse than being outwardly angry. And so I have really worked the last 5 or 6 years on being able to manage my emotions and I should say process them. That's a better word, process them than to like control them, because control gives me this sense that they're still somewhere inside of me, but they're not actually being released. And that is problematic as well. So, as I said, I was very, very angry. I was very reactive, right? And one thing that I will say before I get started is men tend to have this issue more than women because women are taught that at the very least, women are allowed in society to be expressive. So women are allowed to like sort of have outbursts, whereas men, it's kind of seen as like, oh, you can't do that. Women are allowed to have, varying emotions. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Anger Iceberg, but the Anger Iceberg says that anger is just what's showing on the top. Underneath is the real emotion. So we use the term angry, but really, are you feeling resentful? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling abandoned? Are you feeling jealous? Are you feeling envious? Are you feeling hurt? Are you feeling disrespected? Like all of those are real emotions underneath. Anger is just the tip of the iceberg. But for a lot of men and certain communities of women, anger is the acceptable emotion. Okay. If you grew up in a home with alcoholics, this is likely your experience. Or if you grew up in a home with dry alcoholics, they call them. So people whose parents were alcoholics, but they themselves do not drink. If they've not processed their emotions, they will behave like alcoholics without the alcohol. And if you guys want me to talk more about that in a separate video, I'm happy to do that. Um, yeah. So if you grew up in a home where there was substance abuse, so food, alcohol, or drugs abuse, substance abuse, you may find yourself unable to actually process real emotions. There's a lot of women and men who are walking around with stifled emotions. And typically in those homes, the emotions that are acceptable are anger. Like anger is seen as like the acceptable emotion. So that means that like you either are nothing neutral or you're just all out angry. Neither of those are really good for you. This is why therapy is so important. Learning how to process emotions is so important. This is why having a life coach is so important. This is why learning how to deal with your actual emotions is so important. This is why processing journaling is so important, because if you were not taught how to process emotions, you are likely holding in anger, the tip of the iceberg, but really jealousy, resentment, fear, abandonment, all those things, right? So that's the first piece of that is we have to get to the point where we understand that anger is not just like us having an outburst. It's actually oftentimes us not processing the emotions, meaning they have not gone from here out, which is a big deal when it comes to your health and fitness. So one of the reasons why, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but people will say things like, that her anger killed her or that gave him cancer. They're not lying. They're not lying about that. That is actually factually true. So I'm going to pull up my notes here that I have. The first thing you should know about is you should know about the hormone cortisol. Now, cortisol is not all bad. You need cortisol. Cortisol is actually what wakes you up in the morning. You need cortisol if you are going to be running from some sort of danger. You need that. It's not a bad thing. Chronically elevated cortisol is the problem. So the goal is to not never have a cortisol spike. Actually, you need that sometimes. The goal is to not have chronically elevated cortisol. So, cortisol is also something that turns off a lot of bodily functions. And we're going to talk about those bodily functions and why they keep you overweight. Cortisol can rise from a variety of factors. Like I said, when you wake up in the morning, your body naturally turns up cortisol so you can wake up. You can get cortisol from being constantly in fight or flight situations, right? You can have elevated cortisol from constantly being worried about work and money and stress and this and that and the third. That can cause cortisol fluctuations. Being angry all the time, constantly being triggered at work and triggered at home and triggered by this can cause rising cortisol levels. Here's the other thing. Y'all ready for this? Exercising too much can cause chronically elevated cortisol levels, right? So it's all about the balance, right? So here's what happens when you get angry. If you have an extreme bout of anger, and sometimes I want to make sure that I talk about acute anger, which is an extreme bout, and then like this festering anger, all the same thing, all the same. It doesn't matter. Long term, the results will happen. It takes almost 7 hours. It can take up to 7 hours for your cortisol levels to return to normal after you're angry. So imagine this. This is why folks can't go to bed when they're super angry, because if you can go to bed, your cortisol levels are not that high. But if you were like fighting mad, a lot of times it's difficult to go to bed. So imagine this. Monday, my boss makes me so upset that I'm raging. Wednesday, my husband makes me so upset that I'm raging. Thursday, now I have 21 days of elevated cortisol, 21 hours of elevated cortisol. Multiply that over 4 years. How many days did I walk around with chronic elevated cortisol? So here's the first thing that happens. Number one, when you have elevated cortisol, your thyroid function decreases. It gets suppressed. Your thyroid controls a lot of things, including your metabolism, including proper hormone production. So if you are walking around angry, you are walking around with suppressed thyroid. If your thyroid is suppressed, your body can not even lose fat, let alone just like regulate your hormones. You will start having acne, you will start having hot flashes, you will start being bloated, your periods might be heavier because your thyroid is not modulating your hormones properly. That's number one. Number two, your body cannot properly regulate your blood sugar. So this means that if your body cannot properly regulate your blood sugar, you are then on track to have an overworked pancreas, which leads to type 2 diabetes. Chronically elevated cortisol levels lead to unregulated blood sugar, which leads to type 2 diabetes. So if you are chronically stressed, you can acquire type 2 diabetes purely from being angry for long periods of time. Could not be me. Thank you, Jesus. You have suppressed digestion, right? You're so angry because your body is too busy worried about when you have high cortisol, you're thinking danger, there's a bear, there's a tiger, house is burning down. Last thing your body wants to do is use its bodily functions to digest food, which means then the fat, the carbohydrates, the protein, the minerals, the vitamins do not get properly processed throughout your body. So they are stuck in your colon when they should have been moved through your bowels and out of your body. Your kidneys are now not filtering at the rate they should be filtering, which means lots of toxins that are filtered through your kidneys and liver are not functioning. So that is what happens for 7 hours after you have an extreme bout of anger. Your body cannot even detox. Your body cannot even detox. Another symptom of elevated cortisol is that because your body is so worried about living, right? Like just surviving, the fat burning mechanisms will turn off and you will start to store belly fat. If you want to know if you are you have chronically elevated cortisol levels, look at your waistline. If you're, look, okay, so we've all seen these people, right? They have like strong legs, lean arms, and then they got big bellies, or they have like really big waistlines. They have chronically elevated cortisol levels, no matter the age. So that means that, and this could come, by the way, from them not just being angry, just like life, being chronically stressed out. So the goal is to make your anger expensive because it is literally killing you. The other thing that I want to talk to you guys about with anger is that your cells become oxidized. They start to break down and it creates free radicals. Those are things that can induce cancer. So it's really important. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm like angry like that, I don't eat. I feel sick. Does that make sense? Like I feel unwell. I don't feel whole. I feel like my cells are like instead of being like this, like they're supposed to be round, right? Round-ish. They're like crinkled pieces of paper. I don't even feel like I'm alive in the same way. So this is just not a good way to live on the surface level. The other thing that I want to talk about with anger is aside from the physiological effects of it, that's literally what will keep you fat is your body just cannot burn fat. It cannot modulate itself. It cannot regulate your blood sugar, which are all things that are required for you to lose weight. Is if you're angry, you're likely then taking out your emotions somewhere else. So that usually involves for people, most people, drugs, sex, alcohol, and food. Most of those things lead to being overweight, except alcoholism, not always, but you guys know what happens when you drink alcohol. Sometimes you crave like fatty foods, right? But some people will then go and smoke weed. Well, we know that when you smoke weed, a lot of people start to get um, the munchies, right? They want to eat and they don't really they're not like, oh, I'm going to go have some protein now. They're going to go eat a burger and fries and, and something fatty or they turn to food. They eat with their eat. They're trying to eat their emotions away. That in and of itself is keeping you fat. So back to the original point of my video, which is you have to learn how to process your emotions properly. Work through your emotions properly. Get yourself an emotions chart. So I have this emotions. Let me show you guys what I give my clients. Let me see if I can share this with you guys. Emotions wheel, because it's very standard. So this is what we do with children, and this is not to infantilize you guys. I'm just telling you guys that this is what should have happened for a lot of us, and it didn't, right? So let me share with you guys this screen so you guys can see. Ba, ba, ba. So this, let's see if I can just make this screen a little bit smaller so you guys can just see the part that, because let me see if I can actually just, oh no, it's not going to show up. Darn it. I like this right here because it says angry, right? And this is what we're talking about, anger, right in this corner over here, this big one. And look at all of there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different feelings underneath angry. And I would even I would even say that maybe scared and sad are also under the umbrella of angry. So here's how you simply process anger, okay? I'm like, y'all are getting free coaching right now. So I'm feeling angry. So I will literally go through all of these either in my head or I will do this on a chart, like an actual chart, because sometimes and I'll say, I feel. Let me give you guys a very recent example. Well, I felt a lot of things. So I felt, I definitely was frustrated. I felt remorse for sure. Um, and I felt disappointed. So even though I was angry, these are the things that I actually felt. Now, if you want to take this a step further, then you'll write this down. What this does is once you write something down, it actually untangles the thoughts in your brain, or you can talk to someone about it. I don't necessarily like recommend venting. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I like to just write things down or at least just say them out loud. Say like, okay, I'm not angry right now. I'm actually feeling let down and dismissed and um, unheard. Boom, or useless, whatever. So just simply stating an emotion brings the intensity down from a 10 to a 5. That's science. You will literally reduce the impact of the emotion by just saying it out loud. This is psychology. So I use this wheel, like my clients who have my emotional eating course. Actually, let me post that in the chat for you guys. My emotional eating course, my food mindset course, it's in here. And I teach you guys how to use it in that course. So let me pull it up and put it in the chat for you guys. This thing is probably like $12.99 right now. So I'll put that in the chat. So that is the course that I use to discuss like all of the emotions chart and all of that. So anyway, that is what I want to talk about in this video today. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, you agree, you disagree, go ahead and leave comments in the comment section below. Again, please do not forget to like and share this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.